the Atlanta regionals, which are coming up this weekend. And it's a big one, right? We got a brand new set legal. We got rotation. So a lot of old cards are no longer legal. It is going to be the first event of this new format. You are not going to be attending anymore. I will be at the event, though, working on the production team. So if you see me, feel free to come up, say hello. But yeah, very much excited to go see what is going to happen. You are going to be tuning in though and watching all weekend long. Yes.
Yep, I'm tuning in on my stream, doing the restream thing on Saturday and Sunday. It'll be nice for me as well because like I think the stream starts like an hour after I wake up or something, so I can stay on schedule, not be tired. I'm actually gonna go check the broadcast schedule right now, but I'm pretty sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So let's just go through the list here. So we're looking at play limitless. This is the results from online tournaments. The decks that have been doing well. Actually, you know what we should pull up is we should pull up
With them.
Joe Bernard's graph
Oh,
he
true,
tweeted.
true.
Shout outs to Joe.
Shout out Joe.
I always type in Joe and I start to type in Bernard on Twitter, but his name on Twitter is just Omni Joe. And so whenever I start typing in Bernard, I like see his name, but then I type BE and then it disappears. And then anyway, here we are. So here is the online results, play rate for all of the decks. Um, yeah, this is like, the most is this best, most popular? I actually don't know how he rated things here.
I think it's based on placement. It's like points per by placement, right? So like Dragon Ball
Okay,
has
sure.
4,100 points. I think it's yeah, I think it's points by placement for sure. Yeah. Um and we see, yeah, Dragapult's in a tier of its own there, and a couple different ways to play it. Some more popular than others, right? Dusknoir is accounting for half of its points, and then the kind of just Dragapult version is accounting for about a third, a little over a third. And you got Gholdengo and Thorns just kind of there hanging out. They're so along for the ride, taking advantage of how powerful Dragapult is, more so than anything.
Yeah.
But I think I expect Dragapult to be the most popular deck of the tournament. I don't know by how much. I think things have come around a little bit from when we first got the set and from what things looked like post Champions League, Journey Together Champions League, where um, Walls and Terrabog. What won that one again, dude? Am I tripping? What am I? Am I
For
misremembering?
alligator.
Yeah, for Alligator, which is like some kind of like a wall control. I don't even know what you call that deck, to be honest. What do you even label it? Um, yeah, Terrabox and Walls kind of dominated the tournament, I would say overall. But I think things have come around a little bit where it's like Walls isn't that scary. Terror Box isn't as scary. Dragapult's still the best deck in the format. Kind of like what we were seeing last format. And so I think Dragapult will probably be, especially because like it's one of those things where it's like a lot of people played Dragapult last format. That's the deck they know. It's the deck they have. Going to this format, as long as Dragapult isn't exposed as like a fraud, I think people will continue to be playing Dragapult, and it probably is still the best overall deck in the format. So I think it will be the most popular for sure. Maybe not as much as it was like kind of at the end there, because like the last regional we had, it was like what was it? The last regional was like Stockholm, and it was like 20%, and then the next highest was Guardy at 9%. So that's like a pretty steep drop off. It might not be like that popular, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's
um,
definitely gonna still be very popular, and it probably will still be very good, but it definitely does not feel as, like, oppressive. I don't know that it felt like that oppressive, but it was just, like, very clear cut, the best deck in the
yeah,
last format, right? I don't know
yeah,
that it necessarily is quite to that point right now.
yeah. I think maybe it's still clear cut that it's the best deck, but it doesn't
Yeah, yeah,
feel.
yeah.
It doesn't. And yeah, honestly, like you said, like last
It
format,
doesn't feel like it's a full, like, league ahead of most other things, like
yeah, and it doesn't feel like it's toxically the best deck in the format, which we've had in the past with like broken. I would argue broken Lugia, ADPization, stuff like that, right? It's just it is the best deck, and that's fine, right? It's like doesn't feel toxic to go up against like, and now you're playing against it more than anything else, and it's winning more than anything else. So
so
still gonna be number one.
which of these ways would you play Dragapult if you were playing it this weekend?
I mean, I probably just go with Dustnor. I feel like I like the Golden Go and the Thorns. Thorns just doesn't seem that good right now overall, to be honest. But the Golden Go build is, I feel like that's more of a Golden Go deck than a Dragapult deck. If it is like the 2/2/2 Dragapult alongside a 4/4 Golden Go, like Golden
Yeah.
Go is your main attacker. Dragapult's kind of a backup for situations. And I do like the non Dustnor build of Dragapult, I really liked it last format, but I feel like that deck needs a better idea of what the meta is so you can tech it out appropriately. So if you have a good idea of what you think the meta is going to be, if you feel like you have a strong read on the meta, then I think the non-Dusknoir build of Dragapult is pretty good. But I feel like that deck has a lot of space to tech itself out for the meta. But if you don't really know what the meta is, you're kind of just wasting that space by not just playing Dusknoirs, basically. So it depends on how strong of a read on the meta you think you have, I feel like overall.
We can move down to the A tier now. We got 3 decks listed there at the moment. Archaladon, Terrapagos with Bouffant, and Terra Box. Now, Terra Box, after the Japan Champions League, I think was kind of pegged as like the early on, like this is going to be one of the top decks of this format. It feels like it's kind of fallen away from that a little bit. It's obviously still very good. We kind of mentioned this earlier when we were talking about the Champions League Miyagi, that it's like Terra Box, it loses a lot of its strength whenever it's like more of a known quantity, it felt like, right?
Yeah. I think it is part of it. And I think feel and like decks can actually now be built around playing against the deck as well. Stuff like Unfair Stamp and Dragapult is a big one to try and have like an aggressive response in terms of disruption to them getting off the turn one water pawn attack. You hit them with Unfair Stamp, hit them with a Badoo, rebuild up from there. You should be good. I think the only fraud I would say here in A tier is probably Archaladon. I don't think Archaladon is that strong right now. I had a lot of hopes for it going into the format as well. I think tool cards solve a lot of Archaladon's problems, or it has like a lot of tool cards it can like utilize for certain situations. But I think it is on this tier list. I think Archaladon's kind of a fraud in the A tier. I finally did get around to playing some Tank Terrapagos today, and that deck just feels good. Like, there's a lot of decks that do just kind of feel good overall in the format, and I think Tank Terrapagos is just like a solid deck, as well. So to talk about like the two Terra decks in this A tier, um, that and Terra Box both seem like pretty good decks overall. Um, yeah, and I expect them to be the Tank Buffalon probably won't be super popular, but honestly, like around
Yeah.
7%, I wouldn't be surprised.
I feel like it's like a deck on the rise for sure.
Yeah. So
Like, it
maybe
might
post
not be super
Atlanta.
popular at this tournament, but I feel like after Atlanta,
Yeah.
I feel like Buffalon Terrapago, like, I think Tank Terrapagos is probably gonna do pretty decently at this event. Like, Terrapagos is just kind of a great strong card as it is. Bouffalont, like, makes it, you know, way stronger. It can
Yeah.
utilize some of the best cards in the format, like the Lily's Clefairy. Cornerstone Mask Ogrepon has been in a lot of the lists. It can utilize Monkey Dory, which is arguably the strongest card in the
Yeah.
format, like strongest Pokemon. Um, yeah, I
Mhm.
feel like the Terrapagos deck has a lot going for it. It's probably going to do pretty well at the tournament. And if you're not super familiar with the deck, because it's like, yeah, like what you said, kind of been on the rise pretty steadily the last couple weeks. It's one I feel like you should practice against in these last few days before the tournament for sure, with whatever you're wanting to play.
It feels like the only deck that I've played with that feels like it has solidly favorable matchups against Dragapult and Terrabox. But then like your matchups against some of the other deck, like you have a terrible Gardevoir matchup, which is not good. They can pretty easily play around your Terrapagos the whole game and just pick apart your board. Raging Bolt can also be kind of tough, but like I think undisputedly, like Dragapult and Terrorbox are probably gonna be the top 2 decks in terms of popularity and maybe even success at the tournament. We'll have to wait and see for sure on that. It feels like people are giving up on Terrorbox a little bit more. The more the tournament the meta progresses, it feels like the more people are kind of giving up on Terrorbox.
Yeah.
But I still expect it to be probably in the top 3 most popular at this tournament. But then yeah, I could see Tank Terrapagos overtaking something like Terrorbox moving forward past Atlanta. But going to Atlanta, yeah, it's gonna be in like that probably 5 to 7% range, I would assume.
Yeah. And then for our Chaladon, there's kind of, two main ways. It feels like the two biggest ways people are playing it. It's like either the poison package or hops double are kind of the two biggest
Yeah.
ones. There's like a couple other things out there. Like I've seen some Zoroark builds and stuff like that too. But
Dunsparce.
yeah, the Dunsparce, and that the Dunsparce is probably one that's most worth talking about outside of the top two. Um, but yeah, I know you. have not been the biggest fan of the poison package. Remember when this deck kind of first popped up a few weeks ago. You like were like, just look at this deck. Like you could not even kind of believe this deck existed, and now it's like, at that point, did you expect? Because that was like almost a month ago where that happened, where you're like, look at this deck, and then now it's like a real meta contender or a real meta
I
deck
think
that like is going to be played at the event. Like, would you have expected that? And kind of what are your thoughts on that now?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have not expected it. Like, yeah, I was just saying, just by looking at it, it just looked terrible, and it's not as bad as probably I made it out to seem for sure. I still don't think the deck is that good, to be honest. The poison package stuff in general is just kind of mid. I think if anything, it probably works best with Roaring Moon. I don't expect it to be super successful. I don't, like I said, our Chaladon overall feels like the fraud in the A tier to me. But I want to be like shocked to see it like do well. And I don't know, poison package still it seems like it might be better than builds like the Dubwool or the Dunsparce build, but the Zoroark build, honestly, I like a lot, and I could see that build actually being stronger than, or maybe the strongest way to play Archaladon, but that one needs some more time invested into it for sure. Yeah, the poison package build is just, I just don't think it's it. Like, it's just so cheesy. It's just not, it's not it. I don't think.
I really like the idea of the hops double, but I mean, just that ability of like gusting while
Yeah,
being able to play some other supporter.
dude, that deck
And
wishes it got to play with Pokestop so bad.
yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
would be so good with Pokestop. Not quite there though.
Well, let's hop down to the B tier. And this is where things start to widen out a little bit. But I mean, I think there's still several decks here that are going to be pretty played. We're going to see probably a decent amount throughout the weekend. We got Gholdengo, Raging Bolt, Hop Zacian, and Gardevoir. Now, Gardevoir to me is one that I feel like similar to Terrapagos, like has very much been on the rise the last couple of weeks. Um, I think you are going to have a kind of hard time against the Terra box, like potentially in the early games. Like your early game is really shaky, right? But outside of that, like I don't know, a lot of the matchups feel pretty like Gardevoir still feels pretty strong. I don't know. Losing refinement is obviously a very big deal, but Gardevoir EX is still a pretty broken card.
Yeah, I think it is. I think Gardevoir is still pretty good. Like the Terra box is kind of the more iffy of the matchups. I feel like for sure. But if you can stabilize, you kind of just you kind of take over the game. To be honest, I think like just as much as I think Archaladon's like looking at this tier list specifically from Joe, which is just kind of based on online tournaments results. It's not like Joe's personal tier list. I don't think,
No,
or it's
yeah.
not. It's literally just based on the numbers. Yeah, this is like this is just Joe's.
It's just
Uh,
data.
yeah, it's just data. Like I think Guardy should be up in like A. For sure. I think guards should be up in the A tier, definitely. I'm kind of comfortable with the other ones kind of being where they are though. Like Golden Go, Reggie being there. Hopsation should probably be lower though. Like I would say
Yeah.
that out of these B tier decks. But yeah, I think Gardevoir is I don't want to say it's like underrated or underplayed because I think it is on the rise and people are starting to like recognize it more as being a better play in this format than it seemed like initially was. And I think it will increase in numbers as the format progresses and the metas progress, major to major.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be pretty successful and we're gonna see it. And it's gonna I think it's gonna be a deck that has a very good conversion rate from day one to day two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um Now a deck that might not have the best conversion rate, but I think is going to be honestly, my kinda call for this tournament, I think this deck is going to be the second most played deck at the event behind Dragapult, and that is Raging Bolt. I think Raging Bolt is gonna be up there. It's gonna be out there in numbers. People are got the Noctowls, they got the baby bolts out there as well. They're ready to roll with their Raging Bolts. We talked about it a little bit already with your kind of personal take on the deck, but you got anything else you wanna say about Raging Bolt in this format for this tournament?
It seems okay. I think actually one problem for Raging Bolt is that it's kind of unfortunate for Raging Bolt that so many Dragapults are playing unfair stamp right now. Because that hurts getting like turn two unfair stamped or turn three. Then they'll probably give you an extra turn to be honest, because they still need a setup for an extra turn. So I'm not too hype on Raging Bolt overall because of that. You wish the Dragapult players were playing like crystals and stuff. I think a little bit more. So I think it is probably in the B tier, but I'm not like hype on it. I don't think it's like gonna have a surprise performance. I think it'll like have a B tier performance from
Yeah.
the Raging Bolt.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily gonna do super well. I actually think it's, like, a lot worse now than it was even,
Yeah, I
you
could
know
see it being more popular than Terrabox, though. I don't think that's a bad take from you. I could see it being more popular than Terrabox for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of the prediction there, I think. And then Gholdengo was one like kind of at the end of the last format I was underrating as far as how much meta share I thought it was going to pick up. Like after EUIC when it had the breakout performance, it ended up picking up a lot more steam
Yeah.
than I kind of thought it was going to. Heading into this format though, what do you think of Gholdengo?
I think it's still pretty solid. Like I don't know, every deck lost stuff, but like Golden Gold didn't lose. It lost about. I feel say Golden Gold probably lost less than most other decks. Um, it's one of those things when I think about Golden Go, I'm like, why don't I rate this deck higher? Because the deck still feels pretty good. It feels like you didn't really lose that much compared to some other decks. And honestly, I can't come up with a really good reason. Um, so yeah, I think Golden Go is pretty decent. I wouldn't want to like looking at this tier this year. I think it is like probably a B tier deck, but maybe it should even be in the A tier possibly. The more I play with the deck, and kind of understand its power in the format, and the more I think about the deck, I'm always just like, this deck is like, why do I feel like it's not as good as it seems like it is? Um, maybe I am just underrating it right now, but I think Golden Go is pretty solid right now for sure.
Let's for C and D tier, there's kind of a lot of decks. Let's kind of just
We can cut
rapid
out all of D
fire.
tier. I
We
think the
should
only thing to talk about would be Fraligator, to be honest,
yeah,
in D
I
tier.
think it's definitely worth talking about for Alligator. And honestly, maybe the Iron Hands deck, to be honest. Because like you mentioned it with Miraidon. I know you spend a little time on
Yeah,
Miraidon. I guess we're just gonna start with D tier here.
let's do it.
um Iron Hands is still a very strong option. There's just not great like the card is still very good. It just feels like the options to play it are not as strong as they were
Yeah,
in the previous format. Obviously, no Lost Box. Obviously, no double turbo energy for your Miraidon deck. Iron Crown Miraidon, and I mean like future Miraidon, like the baby Miraidon, being kind of the best way to power this thing up, or one of them. Um, I don't know. I feel like that's also a sleeper type of deck where it's like it's not going to be very high play rate, but I wouldn't be surprised to see someone have like a really strong tournament with this deck.
yeah. I actually think the Future Hands deck, I could see it. I think Miraidon is actually just better than Future Hands.
I
Future
can
Hands
see
was
that being
kinda
true for sure.
yeah, Future Hands was kinda miserable to play when I tried it out. I expected a lot from the deck, I'm not gonna lie. Just, like, thinking about it what's done in the past, and then I picked it up and played with it, and I was like, "This thing sucks." Like, this is just not does not feel good. Of course, my list was probably not the best. There's probably some more work to be done, but I don't think there was much more to be solved, and compared to how Miraidon felt, like, Miraidon felt pretty good, like, for what I expected with it with all it lost, so I think if you're trying to play Iron Hands, I think Miraidon is still definitely the better way to go. I could even see there being something like for Chi and Pow in this format because it plays Iron Hands. You have Water Pawn. Like I've been thinking about Chi and Pow a little bit lately. It probably sucks, but like all the tools are there. Room is your new B barrel. Like you got all the tools. I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. Probably still stinks, but that's how I'm feeling about Iron Hands. Fraligator is a deck. While we're here in detail as well, it's completely fallen off. I haven't played against a Fraligator on ladder in forever. I haven't seen him pop up in online tournaments at all.
Kind of a surprising fall
One
off
champ,
too.
yeah, one
Like
Champions League, and then that's it.
it
Wrap.
does feel like kind of one of those decks that it like isn't the type of deck that's gonna be super popular very often. I don't know. It's like kind of more of a
Pretty hard to play for sure.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely a high skill ceiling type deck. That there's that, and then it's also like I don't know, this like hit and run plus the locking. Like there's just so many different options, and the deck is also like I think it feels deceptively inconsistent, right? Like the deck doesn't feel that consistent, but it's like in reality you have a lot of time to kind of execute your game plan and
Yeah,
strategy, right? So I feel like a lot
definitely.
of players maybe like give it a shot and then write it off really quick because it's like, dude, I'm not attacking with for alligator until turn 4. Like this is terrible. And it's like
This is
that's
off.
that's fine.
Yeah.
We're vibing.
We're 5 in. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I think the deck is better than what it's been being played and its success as of late. Post Champions League. It's one of those decks where it's like it's probably always pretty good. It just depends on if a player wants to commit the time and actually bring it to the tournament. I think is going to be the big thing.
Let's run through the C tier real quick now. So we got Inns Zoark. Oh, how sad, how sad. What could have been, but unfortunately there were no good Inns Pokemon for Inzork to copy.
Yeah, honestly, Enzorg is. probably like my favorite deck to play right now. But I don't think it's like some kind of broken A tier, S tier deck. It's really fun to play. The deck is not terrible. You got solid matchups into most of the top decks, but it's just it doesn't feel great. It just feels fine. It feels fine. But it's definitely my favorite deck to play with right now, for sure. I want to go to the next one real fast and just say we do not have to talk about Charizard at all. That deck sucks.
Dang. How the mighty have fallen.
Is it right?
The card that has everything.
That deck sucks. Let me clarify. That deck sucks right now. Charizard Pidgeot is a very powerful deck. It's just not good right now. Put him away. Pick him up later. A couple formats from now. Whenever Dragapult goes away.
What about Roaring Moon? This is one I think a lot of people didn't expect to see on this list, on a meta list after rotation, right? Losing Dark Patch felt so bad for the deck, but it's managing to hang in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Roaring Moon. I haven't tried it yet. Most of them, if not all lists, are playing like the poison package in there, which makes sense in this deck for sure. Definitely an interesting deck. I want to give it some time at some point, and that's how I feel about the next deck as well. Is the Flareon deck? We actually saw a really sick game at this most recent Champions League with a Evolutions deck. The Sylveon can make some pretty crazy things happen with its whatever that name of that attack is called in the late game,
Angelite.
Angelite. Um, so those are like 2 decks that I think have potential. Actually, all 3 of these last couple decks, I think they all have potential. I just need to like play more with them to be honest. But I like all 3 of the decks here at the end, the Evolutions deck, the Roaring Moon deck, and the Frostlass Monkey Dory. Like I think they all have potential for sure.
Yeah, and I think like for the Frostless Monkey Dory, I'll just say that the result from the Champions League should give anyone who like is playing this deck on TCG Live, right? The deck that you're guaranteed to play against once whenever you're getting in a TCG Live session, it should give you hope, right? There is actual potential. There's something here with your Frostless Monkey Dory deck.
Yeah, from what I played with it, like it's one of those decks where it's like this doesn't seem that good. It seems like a cool meme deck. But then you start playing with it and like everything's working and you just keep winning and you're just like, wait, hold on a second. Is this just good? Like at a certain point you have to just be like, wait, I think it's just good. Like everything's working. I'm beating multiple different matchups in different ways. Maybe it's just good. Maybe it's just good. Not sold on it yet, but I think the potential's there.
All right. Well, any other decks not listed here that you want to talk about? There's no stall, there's no walls, there's no control, anything like that you want to mention?
I guess maybe walls would be the big one to mention.
Mamoswine,
I'm not sure.
Blaziken.
Well, I don't know, but Blaziken is best in Mamoswine, so it's just like the same deck at that point. But I think walls is probably a big one. I don't know how much people are teching for walls right now. I feel like techs are down a little bit, so I think walls is probably lining up to be a pretty decent play going to Atlanta because it feels like it's like an under talked about deck right now. It's a little bit off the radar. Now a lot of decks are like some decks are just like naturally including the one of Cornerstone, like the Terrapagos decks, but you can definitely still beat some of them with walls. You don't just lose. So I don't know. Wall seems okay right now. Wall seems okay. I guess I'll say that.
All right. Well, we'll just have to see exactly what does well this weekend in Atlanta.